Hates, who made a similar call last week. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And to Jim Gamble, who says this is a bit simplistic. He's former head of the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command Centre within the National Crime Agency. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
Jim, why do you think this is too simplistic? I mean, in a way, search terms, internet search history, etc., is very much the window into everyone's soul, isn't it? So why is that not a good idea?
Well, there have been moderations on search terms with Google, for example, for over 10 years. And if you look at the problem isn't necessarily, being able to search. The problem is that children and young people are exposed to risk because they're not educated and empowered at an early enough age. So early help and early intervention is really important. But I don't think it's realistic for a simple practical reason. By the time a child gets to 12 in the UK, 85 to 90% of them already have a smartphone. And the fact of the matter is, under the Federal Trade Commission laws and COPPA in the United States, you're not allowed on to a social networking site until you're 13. Who do you think buys the children? The 90% of them under 12 who are online, the smartphones? Parents. The bottom line is the software that's being called for already exists. Spy and Prize software is available today. You can download it and put it on your child's phone, and it will give you prompts and send you warnings when your child is using inappropriate language or accessing inappropriate material. But parents don't actually do that.
Okay.
And the problem is every time something terrible happens, we roll out the same thing, ban it.
Yeah.
That's not going to work. Educate, empower and protect.
Okay, Miriam Cates, what about those ideas then? This idea of software or spyware that actually already exists, but a lot of this is driven by parents.
Well, this is a huge problem, and I agree there aren't any simple solutions. And I agree with Jim that monitoring search terms is not easy. Also, when is a search term a harmful word and when is it genuine research? These are all legitimate questions. But I think we just need to step back and look at the harms that are being done to our children. And if you look since 2010 across the Western world, so not just in this country by any means, every conceivable measure of teen well-being, whether that's suicide attempts, admissions for self-harm, feelings of inadequacy, feeling lonely, all those kind of things, all of those indicators of poor mental health have rocketed and they are continuing to rise. And the one obvious factor that began in 2010 and obviously has become ubiquitous in our children's lives since then is smartphones and social media. Now, of course, parents have a role to play, absolutely, in educating and restricting. But we have got to the point now where big tech is so powerful. These are the richest companies in the world, and it is their business model to use our children's data and keep them hooked. And I just don't think that parents, ordinary parents, can withstand that kind of vested interest. And that's why the government has a role now in regulating those smartphones, those social media, whatever you want to call it. And I just think when every single child in the class has a smartphone from the age of 11, it is unrealistic to say to parents, your child must be the only one who doesn't. And even if they are, they can still be shown harmful material in the playground by other children. There is a kind of regulation now.
Yes, but by the same kind of measurement then, Miriam, why would parents who for whatever reason are saying to their 12-year-olds, yes, you can have a mobile phone, 85% of them anyway, why would they take the lead from a government who say, oh, we're going to ban these? Because the pressure from the children is still, no, we don't know. We want our phones.
Government cracking down on tech companies, not on parents. And some of your listeners will have seen the hearings in Congress last week where Mark Zuckerberg, of course, the owner of Meta, was up against not only some of the American politicians, but also parents. And we found out just how much these companies know about the harm they're doing, and yet they're not willing to do anything about it. And I think that's unacceptable. And I think that's why it's the government that needs to step in. This isn't about punishing parents or punishing children.
Okay.
It's about safeguarding the future of our society.
Right, Jim, I'll come to you in a second. Miriam, I just want to ask you, if you don't mind, just from personal, because it is very difficult for parents to say no to children. I have an 8-year-old. She's already wondering when she's going to get her phone, and it's not going to be for a long time. How old are your children, and do they have smartphones?
I don't ever speak about my children for obvious reasons. I don't think it's fair on them. But I do have children, and I think this is an incredibly difficult problem for parents, because you are torn both ways. You don't want your child to be left out. Even if your child doesn't have a phone, if the rest of their friends are spending all their evenings on phones, your child is by definition left out.
Okay.
And, we only have to go back 15 years. Kids did not have phones.
I know.
We survived. In fact, we had a lot more social interaction.
We did. Let's get some social interaction from Jim. Jim, what do you think?
Well, I think it's too easy. The government are very good at pointing the finger, and of course, big tech needs to do much, much more. I've been fighting with big tech since 2005, 2006, the whole way through. But when it comes to looking in the mirror, the last 10 years, if you want to look at statistics, this government have stripped out frontline social care. They have undermined our ability to properly police this online environment. It's all very well saying they're rebuilding it when they're only actually putting back that which was taken. And that which was taken takes a while to get the experience back again. Sure Start, decimated. And the key here is early help. How do we get to our children at an early enough stage to educate and empower them so that they learn the basics, so that it's instilled in them from toddlers about how they stay safe? And if we can't do that, how do we reach them with earlier interventions? The fact of the matter is, this isn't all about online. Walk down any high street and look at the sexualized imagery in the commercials that are out there, that are on posters or on TV or elsewhere, that influence young people. Look at the misogynistic behavior, the hate on our streets, where we see people involved in toxic debate. And it always goes to the toxicity of it. And that influences and forms children and young people. This isn't all about mobile phones. If it was, it would be easy. If we want to have a system that says we don't want any more car accidents, then we ban cars and everybody walks. But no one suggests that we do that, because the benefits outweigh these other issues. It's about taking the time to pause and plan, having a holistic approach, investing in children and adolescent mental health so that they've got greater resilience. And that's an offline issue and requires greater funding from a government that has seen mental health crisis double year on year the last number of years.
Jim, just very, 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 very quickly, you said that there are benefits to children owning mobile phones. Apart from, I presume, parents knowing where they are, what are the benefits?
Well, apart from parents knowing where they are, when our children leave the school gates, of course phones shouldn't be on in school, but when children leave the school gates, if something happens, if they need to contact a parent, if they are out late at night with friends and get lost, these benefits are missed.
Can I come back in,
Asma? Very quickly.
Just two things. Firstly, I'm not here to defend the government or austerity, but this is a trend that has happened across the Western world since 2010. It's just not a plausible argument that this has happened because of something politically that's happened in this country. And secondly, Jim's absolutely right about roads. The government regulates the roads heavily. We have speed limits. We have sides of the road you have to drive on. We have prosecution if you hit a child. That's what we need. We need proper regulation so that parents can teach their children how to use the internet safely. We don't have that.
Let me just say this. We regulate people who drive cars. What we're doing here is attacking the technology.
But we don't let children drive cars.
Let me finish. We need to regulate by creating an active deterrence, the same as speed limits. Less than 80% of people who download indecent images of children go to prison. The fact of the matter is, in the last 10 to 12 years, this government has had a negative impact and has stripped out the system, and that was their choice about what they invested in austerity. If we want to talk about money, the money that was invested and wasted by this government in other projects is shameful. OK,
Jim, thank you very much for talking to us. Miriam Cates as well. So that was a Conservative MP, Miriam Cates, and also Jim Gamble, former head of the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Command Centre within the National Crime Agency.
Loads of you getting in touch about this nonsense to say that because their friends have mobiles, they should, like saying because one smokes, they all should ban mobiles for under 14s. Just do it. And there's also a distinction between a mobile, Asma, and a smartphone.
Yeah.
Like if you want to know where your kids are, you could just have a phone that has a text message function. They don't need to have a phone that has access to everything else on
But
it.
the whole left out argument is very strong, isn't it? I mean, I'll have to withstand it at some point soon. But I know someone who said that, a friend of mine who said that her 11-year-old he has WhatsApp, but only on the computer at home, and that's how he manages to stay in touch. But you know what WhatsApp's like, even amongst adults, it's relentless. It's too much.
It is all too much. But can you uninvent stuff once it's been invented?
No, you have to be. It's not going to be easy, but sometimes you have to be brave and say, you know what, I don't think this is going to be good for you. So therefore, you're going to have to be one of maybe only 3 or 4 children in the class who are not doing it.
But that won't happen when they're 11. I tell you now, when I've got a 15-year-old at 11 and 12.